For some of you, it seems like it's been forever since Zeb Wells has started his run on The Amazing Spider-Man, and you cannot wait until he is done with this run so we can get a brand new writer on the title. This is a very familiar thing. It seems like this has happened with Dan Slott. This seems like it's happened with Nick Spencer. And once again, it's happened with Zeb Wells. Now, I have said many times when it comes to Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man run that it is a absolute roller coaster type of run. And I'm going to explain that right now. I'm Mike Spider Slayer. Welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. If you guys love daily comic book content, if you love daily Spider-Man content, if you love me helping you make decisions on what comic books to buy, guys, I think you came to the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button. All right, so we're talking about Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man run. This run is very much a roller coaster. It gets you hyped for certain stories. You're like, oh, maybe it's going to be good. And then it kind of just lets you down. But then there's a good story arc in between. And then it just kind of lets you down again. And that's what this run is. But I feel like there is a true reason why this run, it either sucks or it's pretty good. And the reason why is because I think Zeb Wells' main objective here is when he took over the Amazing Spider-Man character, he wanted to do the gang war storyline. He wanted to focus heavily on the street level villains of the character. And this goes all the way back to when Nick Spencer did his run and got Janice and Randy together. And Nick Spencer picks up on those story thread and says, you know what? How am I going to create a gang war with, all of the mobsters in Spider-Man's mythos? And what he does is he creates a wedding, which takes place in Amazing Spider-Man issue 925. And there is this possible murder attempt on Tombstone, sends him to the hospital, tends to set the marriage apart. The marriage never happens, and being that there's a seat now in the whole mobster situation, there creates some unsteady tension that leads into this whole gang war without spoiling the Amazing Spider-Man First Strike, which by far is probably the best issue that Zeb Wells has actually written, because the person that really is behind the gang war is not Hammerhead, it's somebody else that is like one step of him that wants to take over everything. So I thought this book was really good, but this really indicates to me this was the story that Nick Spencer wanted to tell, and he had to tell other BS stories in between, whether it was editorial or his attempt at doing other stuff with the character and just not landing. It's quite interesting, right? So you can tell right from the start of the beginning of this run, when you have issues 1, 2, 3, right from the start, you know that Tombstone's going to be the focal point of this story, because you got the first 5 issues that focus on the Tombstone character. And it's a character that we don't see ever too often. And I think Zeb Wells did a really good job at making him a badass again, because he went soft. So I thought that was really good. Then you get your peaks and valleys when it's come to the run, right? Another good story that I can recommend when it came to this was, I want to say 11, 12, 13, and 14, okay? Now, 11, 12, 13, and 14 had to deal with the Hobgoblin. Another character that you can say that, might make his appearance maybe in the gang war or something like that, but a really good story. Then we had the Dark Web event, and I'll be the first to admit, I said it right here on the channel, that, man, this could be the best Spider-Man event in a long time. It seems like it's going to be really good. Deja vu, right, when I say this. But this feels like it has a little bit more meat to it. When you read Dark Web, it was Madeline Pryor, and you got introduced to Wreck Rap, who is a very annoying character, which should have his own book, maybe for a children's book, right? Not in the main Amazing Spider-Man comic, which we most recently seen. And maybe he should be the Spider-Man of Limbo, and that's it, right? We got the introduction to Hallows Eve, which I thought was the standout character in the event, where you would think it would have been Ben Reilly Chasm. So I think a lot of people were let down when it comes to the Chasm character on him doing a little bit more, but the consolation prize, again, was the Hallows Eve character. We're still yet to see what they're going to do with Janice, right? But I think she definitely has potential and a good idea by Zeb Wells. We did get the new costume that design that Zeb Wells came up with, which I know a lot of people weren't happy with. And what was also another downer of this comic book, unfortunately for a lot of people, was the John Romita Jr. artwork. Now, as of late, John Romita Jr. has taken time off of the series because I'm pretty sure he's doing the gang war arts, and that might be disappointing for people, but at least we've had other artists fill in between, which has been a plus. But I know that is a downer for a lot of people when it has come to the series. When you look at the overall run, there hasn't been that great of storytelling because it focused so heavily on the first 25 issues of what happened to Mary Jane, what's going to happen in issue 25, who's going to be the death, is it going to be Mary Jane, and everybody got let down because it was freaking Ms. Marvel. Was that Zeb Wells' idea? I don't think so. I think it might have been editorial here, where they said, we got the movie coming out, we want to put Miss Marvel in our comic book, show you how much of a great character she is, and yes, we want to make her a mutant again, so we got to stick her somewhere because she doesn't have her own series. So again, that's not what people want to see. They want the story focused on Spider-Man, not Ms. Marvel. So I don't know if that was Zeb Wells' thing, but that was definitely a downer in the series. Now, when we get the return of the series from that issue 25, we get a short little story when it comes to, I guess we get Dr. Octopus in there, right? And then we get another really good story when it came to Kraven's Last Hunt, but it was roles reversed, where we had Zeb Wells put Spider-Man in the thick of things, where he's absorbed the sins past of Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, right? So that's very interesting story. Had a lot of fun with it. Super dark. I felt like Amazing Spider-Man was back on track again. So we got to a high and then we went right back down to a low once again. And we had the Rec Rap storyline when it came to Rec Rap trying to get this repo guy who was originally the bill collector from the first few issues. It's just a story that's just not needed. And for me, it doesn't really fit what's been going on of what Zeb Wells has been trying to do. Not good, in my opinion. So now we have possibly also the return of Green Goblin, because it looks like the sins are headed back his way. And then we get this Gang War First Strike book, which did not disappoint. I am very excited for it. Like I said, the person who's behind the whole thing that started the whole war, it's absolutely awesome. The twist was great. And this could be the redemption, I'm telling you, when it comes to Zeb Wells' story on a run on Amazing Spider-Man. Just because this is the story that he wanted to tell, and he had to put all that other fluff in there. Plus the return of Green Goblin. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that might be issue 50 is when we get the return of the Green Goblin. And then I'll make a true judgment on what Zeb Wells has truly accomplished with this run. Will it be worse than Nick Spencer's run? I don't know. Will it be worse than Dan Slott's? I think it is. Dan Slott accomplished a lot on his 10 years on the run. You just don't see a lot of stuff like that anymore where a writer stays on a comic book forever. But definitely a roller coaster run when it comes to Zeb Wells. I will still yet make a final determination by the time this whole thing is all said and over with. There's been more bad than good. But fortunately, there's still a redeeming factor here with this major storyline. However, when John Romita Jr. comes back, I don't know if you guys are going to actually give this a try. So we'll see. I'm just putting it out there. Give Gang War First Strike a try. I think you won't be disappointed. And hey, maybe Zeb Wells' run won't be so bad after all. So there you go. There's just my little thoughts on the run up until this point, how it has been this roller coaster ride. And if you like this type of video, if you love me discussing Spider-Man, guys, just, you know, give it a like. Give it a thumbs up. Do whatever it is that you need to do. Comment down below what you thought of this overall run. What do you think of First Strike? And if you love my content, I'll leave you more content right here. In fact, this is my Worthy Ones video where I rate all the newest #1 issues that came out for the comic book week that I read. So hopefully you'll check that out. And of course, guys, keep buying, keep collecting, but more importantly, always read those comics and support the local comic shops. Guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you real soon.